Okay. All right. So I'm Sarah Bickford. This is my narrator, Cruz Emery. We are here in the Ruth Patrick Science Center on Friday, March 1st of 2019. We'll just start with really basic stuff.
Yep.
When and where were you born?
I was actually born in Sarah, Pennsylvania on April 26, 1989.
What kind of star sign would that be?
Taurus? Is that what it maybe?
I mean,
Yeah.
All right. How would you describe your childhood?
Um, Quite normal. The youngest child. I have two older sisters. Just grew up in the farm country in upstate New York, actually. And yeah, I mean, went through parents got divorced when I was 8 or 9. It was very, to me, general childhood.
I understand. How would you describe your relationship with your sisters?
So when I was younger, I actually just told a story yesterday of how they used to torture me. Um, so when I was younger, it was my oldest sister, 7 years older than me, so we were never really close. My other sister's 2 years older, so we were more generally close. But yeah, they used to play this game, probably when I was like 4 or 5. When I would be tickled or laugh, I would have like a vein that would swell to my forehead. No big deal, other than the fact that they decide to pin me down and tickle me, but then right beforehand tell me if I laugh too hard, the vein would pop and I'll die.
Oh no!
So I would think that as I'm being tickled, I'll die.
Yeah.
So it was just, just fun memories like that. But now we don't have a necessarily close relationship, but we don't have bad relationships. We still see each other on the holidays because one lives in New York still, one lives in Maine. So only see each other about once or twice a year. But
Well, that's good. It
Yeah.
actually reminds me, my oldest brother, he would torment my older sister and I. He would pretend to bring in crickets, and then he'd sneak up on us and be like, hey, what's this? And he'd throw it at us.
that's good too.
Yeah.
Siblings are nice. They're always fun.
Honestly. How was high school for you?
High school was challenging, actually. So, actually moved in. After my parents' divorce, I lived with my mom until high school. I moved with my dad, so I actually switched high schools. So starting over in 9th grade as a 14-year-old boy is a little challenging. So it actually took me a little while to readapt, make new friends kind of idea. But my last 2 years of high school were actually really good because I ended up joining some sports teams, making more friends, and actually really enjoyed my last couple of years.
That's awesome. What kind of sports teams did you?
So I just did track and swim.
Any really, significant memories that you just know offhand that you love telling people?
Not appropriate ones.
They never are.
Well, I only joined track actually was in between swim seasons to try to build up my endurance and my leg muscles because I actually joined swim team without knowing how to swim. So that was a fun part. So actually my first day of swim practice was learning how to go from the shallow end to the deep end without drowning.
Oh, wow.
So that was actually pretty eventful, actually. Slightly torture aspects of it, I guess. Maybe hazing, you would call. But still fun. Great group of guys I swam with. Made good friends there. But when I swam, I would never kick my legs. So I would only be pulling with my arms. So I actually joined track to actually try to build my leg muscles up so that way the next following season actually I really focus on kicking, which turned out to be good because actually it tore my rotator cuff my second season of swim. So I had to focus more on kicking. Anyway, so it worked out in the end.
Well, at least it worked out.
Yeah.
Did you go to college before you went to the military?
Yes. So after high school, I actually was debating between military and college. But my dad did not want me to go in the military, so he convinced me to go to college, even though he would call me. Are we allowed to cuss on this, by the way?
I don't mind.
Okay.
Do you guys mind?
So he used to always call me a dumbass. Actually, that 70s show, have you seen it?
Yes.
So Red Foreman, the
Oh my
dad.
gosh.
I like to compare my dad to that. So, but he really didn't want me to go in the military, so he convinced me just to try college first. Tried that, but I mean, I was working full-time jobs while going through college and did not take it seriously. So after 2 years and switching my major several times, I ended up just pretty much failing all my classes my last semester and just called it a day. Just quit. Which today I feel the effect because I went from, I think I ended with a 1.7 GPA. Then I found out GPAs, just like credit scores, follow you for the rest of your life. So that's not fun. But yeah, after that, so I was 20 at the time when I quit school and tried just working more. Then I had several jobs, anywhere from painting houses to I was working at a juvie detention center, and then working at a plant, Borg Warner plant, making car parts. But just was not finding anything fulfilling or anything I really enjoyed. So that's when the military came back up in my mind. Also didn't help, I was having girl problems. So I just decided to try to go back in the military. So I actually tried the Air Force first. Me and my buddy actually were planning on going to the Air Force together. And after a long time of trying to talk to the recruiter and figure everything out, I did get orders to leave for boot camp for the Air Force, but when I got the orders, it was just general, you'll be in a mechanical field somewhere. They didn't actually give me a specific job, which I didn't like the idea of. I didn't want to leave for the military not knowing what my job was going to be. So after a little debating and arguing with my recruiter, I decided to walk across the hall to the Navy office and talk to that recruiter. And they sold me on the idea of the Navy, so then I started that process. So I turned down the contract for Air Force, and then followed through the Navy, and ended up leaving for boot camp. Was it July of 2010? So at 21 years old. Yeah.
Well, at least you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
You chose something that fit you?
Yeah, so my first contract, actually, so I had two separate contracts with the Navy also. So my first one was actually AD, which is aviation mechanic. So I would have been working on jet engines, which sounded cool. I was all for that. I'm a big automotive fan. I love working on my cars, so I was cool with that. But the girl problems came back up. So with that contract, I actually was not supposed to leave until I think it was October 2010, and I was like, I can't stick around here that much longer. So I called my recruiter. I was like, get me something that leaves tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And so he came back with me a few hours later, and I had a job for AT, which is aviation electronics technician. And with that, it was actually a $5,000 bonus also, enlistment bonus. So I was like, oh, that's great. And that left in like 3 weeks. So got me out of town earlier, got me a little extra money in my pocket. One thing he neglected to tell me that is it added 1 year to my contract. So 4 years, I was signing up for 5. Didn't find that out until later.
Yeah,
but
that's not fun.
Recruiters, they're fun.
They really are. Okay, so regarding basic, what was your initial reaction to basic training?
Hated it. Very disappointed. So I went in with the idea of, full metal jacket, getting yelled in your face, working out all the time. I went into the idea of it being very challenging. It was very boring. So Navy boot camp, the first week is a little hectic just because, so I got on a plane to Chicago, flew to Chicago, got on a bus. On the bus ride, they make you watch some video about drug tests and stuff like that. Then you get up to Great Lakes. So we get off the bus, and first thing you do, they just line you up, and they start kind of yelling. So the first week is kind of more what I thought it was going to be.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Where did you go to basic training?
Great Lakes, so
Okay.
it's around Chicago.
Okay.
Never saw Chicago, but it's around there. So, yeah, when we get in there, that was what I kind of expected. But then after the first couple of days, it became more like, okay, going through medical screenings and stuff like that, which I understood. So those first 5 days, I think it was, they call P days. So it's just literally just making sure all the medical stuff is taken care of. You got all your clothes, all your uniforms, and then you actually move to the other side of base, and that's when you actually start basic. And then once we started that, it became a very thing where several hours a day, you're just sitting there doing nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, nothing. You have to read a Blue Jackets manual, so it's the history of the Navy and the different parts of it. But you can't sit down. like there's no furniture you can sit down. You can't even sit down on your rack, so you have to like either stand up or sit on the floor. So it's just, it was boring, and it's always a hurry up and wait game. So if we go to chow, it's a hurry up, get in line, get down to chow, and stand in line and wait. And all thing you can do in line is read your book. You can't even lean against the walls. You have to stand at attention and just read your book. So it's just, it was very different than what I expected it to be. So I expected, working out all the time, running, doing that kind of stuff, and it was just more reading, and you only PT'd 3 days a week. Like, it was just different than what I thought. So it was very. So initially I was like, screw this. I don't even want to do this anymore. If this is what the Navy's going to be like, I don't want to be here. But I stuck through it. I just kept my head down. Or tried to keep my head down, and just got through it. I ended up becoming a section leader. Actually, during the P days, so I pick, like 5 section leaders, so you'd be in charge of a group of guys. So I believe the way they tested this is whoever was best at making their bed got selected as a section leader. Okay. So, but it turned out actually I was the only one that was selected as section leader initially and stayed a section leader throughout the whole boot camp. Everyone else had been fired or switched out and everything like that. So that was kind of cool. But the bad part was you're responsible for a group of guys. So during inspections, if one of your guys failed inspection, it was on you. So it's supposed to just demonstrate leadership and how the leader is always responsible for the people. So one thing I found out about myself is that I do not like to be punished for other people. Yeah. But one thing I also found out is my kind of type of leadership style that was natural to me was, if people can't do it right, I'll do it for them. Instead of necessarily teaching them, I didn't trust them, so I'd do it for them, which then put a lot more work on me. So it's like I discovered a little something about myself, which was nice.
So you'd say basic changed you in the way it made you realize that you didn't trust people who couldn't initially do the thing right?
Yeah, so I still suffer with it today. I still, even if we have group projects in school, I still have a hard time trusting people to do work to where I feel like it should be. So I'm not saying I'm perfect at all. I mean, like I said, I failed through college, so I'm not the smartest person ever, but still, if I'm going to be punished with you, I'd rather do the work for you than have you do the work. So it's one thing I've had to work on a lot is delegating and then entrusting the person to complete the task. But it always sucks when you have the people prove you right and they're not going to complete the task. Yeah. So I mean, it's something I struggled throughout my career in the Navy, and even today. I mean, simple stuff is with my wife. Like if I tell her to pay a certain bill, sometimes I have a hard time just entrusting without verifying that she's going to pay the bill or something. So it's funny but stupid stuff that being in boot camp highlighted that for me and made me realize that's how I am, and maybe so I can try to work to correct it. I mean, I think it's going to stay with me, but it's something I'm glad I'm cognizant about and can actually try to correct, I guess.
So, okay, but do you have any memorable moments from boot camp? It was so boring. I mean, it's cool if you don't, because if it was boring just standing all the time and reading, then I can understand.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I remember there's one time after we failed inspection, and everyone, so after the RDCs, so our drill instructors, after they left for the night, people just kept bitching about failing the inspection, and I was very quiet through boot camp for the most part, but that's one of the only times I spoke up, and I was like, this is so easy. Like, I came in here expecting it was going to be so hard. So I was telling everyone, like, this is so easy. Why do you guys keep fucking it up? Because you want to have fun. This is not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something to get through. And I don't know. No one listened, of course. but as I just got fed up, because, like, in my mind, it was easy. But because people want to be fuckboys or whatever, or be the bad boy in the group, it's like, they get in trouble or just don't do their stuff, or rather joke around than actually be serious and get through it. And if you want to join the military, why are you acting like that? You're supposed to be different. So just my perception of what I expected it to be and what it was being, and what I expected the people I'd be working with were going to be like and how they were like. It's just made me realize it's so much different than what you see on TV and their movies or anything. Like when you see a movie with the people in the military, people are joining the military because they're gung-ho, they want to be motivated, but in reality, I think everyone joins the military for their own reasons. Me, I just wanted to get out of my hometown, and I didn't really see another way. It wasn't necessarily like a pride, like I want to serve my country type of thing, but that was my reasoning, and I was going to take it seriously. Other people, I don't know what their reasons are, but they just want to continue acting the way they did before, and they didn't want to join the change. I wanted to join the change.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. So, but the most memorable part would probably be what we call battle stations. Technically, I can't really go into the details of it because it's supposed to be a whole surprise. But it was it's an event where they actually have a fake warship inside of a giant building, and it simulates a battle stations mode. So like ships being attacked and multiple things going wrong, failures, ships sinking, water coming on board, kind of thing. So it's pretty much almost like a theme park ride. So it's very interesting. But what they do is they try to stress you, so they actually keep you up for 24 hours and then have you go there. So really, by the end of the day, you're staying up for like 50 plus hours. So you get tired. And yet again, there's parts of it where it's boring. You have to sit in a room.
Yeah.
And you're tired, but you can't fall asleep. Because if you fall asleep, you fail and start over. So it was interesting. But they push you through a lot of tests. And to me, that was a very interesting part. Because it was like a theme park ride, but more serious, I guess. It was actually like fires that you had to put out. So they actually had to have not simulated fires, but they're real, but controlled. So it was kind of cool.
All right. After basic, did you have to complete any extra training to go along with your position?
Yeah, so with the Navy, you go to A school. So my A school was in Pensacola, Florida. So, it's always nice to go there in September. Got to spend the winter down there, so it was nice to spend my first winter away from New York in Florida. First time spending a winter without snow.
How was that?
That was nice. It was nice. Pensacola was nice, though. So when I got there, I was pretty much put on hold because my class has not started yet. So I spent, I think, 2 months before my training actually started. So yet again, kind of a boring factor. So you spend your day, like every 2 hours, you have to come out of your room and clean the barracks. Like it got dirty in 2 hours, but so it was just one of the boring games again. Just sit around, wait. So when my classes finally started up, I was excited. Although classes are 8-hour long class. It's one class, 8 hours long for me. So being an AT, we're supposed to be one of the smart people in the Navy. So our classes were, I think, total training time was like 6 months. So it's very rigorous. They go very in depth into theories and stuff. They definitely overtrain for the job. I found that out when I got to do my job, which was like 3 years later when I finally got to do my job. But yeah, so it was pretty intense. But Pensacola itself was kind of a nice base, actually. So they actually had like a little nightclub on base, MWR place where you get to go, use computers, play video games, eat some fast food, shoot some pool, kind of thing. So it was all had a little entertainment to it. So that was nice. So after, can't remember how long. I think it was a few weeks. You're kind of on probation almost while you're there, and then you start allowed to go out and do stuff, and then your curfews are later, kind of thing. You have to earn your way up. But so it was not bad. Met some good people, had some friends while I was there, and yeah, so I went there, and I think it was September of 2010, and didn't leave there until, what was it? May, maybe? March, May?
March and May? Year?
When was that? Because I did go, so I think I graduated there in March, I want to say. So I think I graduated and left in March. And so the fun part was, so after A school, after you complete your A school, that's when you actually get your official orders out to the Navy. So we got to write down wish lists, like your 5 top places you want to go. So the class that graduated just before me, their actually wish lists were in standing, so they would actually try to give them orders according to the wish list. For mine, mine was the first class for a while that they decided just to crumple up their wish list and throw them away. Oh. So it was just needs of the Navy at that point. So my whole wish list, I wanted to stay on the East Coast because I wanted to be able to stay reasonably close to my family. And of course, I got California orders. so
Mm.
I got orders to Lemoore, California, not even the nice like San Diego, California. So Lemoore is considered the armpit of California. If that puts it into a good term. So it was interesting. So I was a little frustrated by that because it seemed like all the people that wanted West Coast orders got East Coast orders in my class, and vice versa. So everyone that wanted East Coast got West Coast, and we couldn't like exchange orders or anything, which is kind of ridiculous to me. Although there's one person that wanted Texas orders, and those aren't very common orders, and he actually got Texas orders. I don't know how he did that, but yeah. So also being in the Navy, I thought I'd be near water. So of course got the orders for Lemoore. Was like, where the hell is Lemoore, California? And don't know where that is. So go ahead and go back to my barracks room and Google it. It's in the middle of the desert. So I was like, I'm in the Navy. Why am I in the middle of the desert? So it's a air base. So I work, of course, being AT, aviation. So I was on the air base in Lemoore, California. So NAS Lemoore. So we only go to the ship when we're actually deployed.
Yeah.
And then we fly the jets out to the ship, and then we go out on the carriers. But it was kind of, I was like, damn. So literally middle of nowhere, 2 hours from anything decent. You're 2 hours from the beach. You're 2 hours from the mountains. You're 4 hours from LA. You're 3 hours from San Francisco. I mean, so in an aspect, on like for weekend trips or if you have some days off, it's nice.
Yeah.
But for daily day activities, there's nothing there. Yeah. So even the base, I went from like Pensacola having the nice like nightclub, the whole thing, to like the only thing that was on base in the mall was like a McDonald's.
Oh.
Like.
So sad.
I think they had a Taco Bell, but I shut down like after a year being there because I'm pretty sure they were poisoning people. So it was just like there's nothing there. So it was a little rough.
Well, on to the fun part. You were deployed twice, right?
Yes, so I did.
On the carrier John Stennis.
Yes, John C. Stennis. Yes.
Both times?
Yep.
All right. Where were you were you assigned to any specific units while you were on board?
So when I'm in Lemoore, the aviation unit I'm attached to I was attached to VFA 41, the Black Aces. So when we go as a squadron to the boat, then we're part of the air wing, and I think we were part of CAG, so Carrier Air Group 9. I think we were 9 the first time. It may have changed the second time, but so it's just all the air squadrons that kind of go with us. So the other F-18 squadrons. So I worked on F-18 Super Hornets. So we'd have, I think, 3 other Super Hornet squadrons go with us. We'll have a couple of helicopter squadrons go with us. We'd have a Hawkeye squadron with us, and a couple more. Yeah.
And your objectives? Well, generally, because I know you can't tell me specifically.
I mean, I don't even know details like specific like that. We're not really privy to that information. So really, just so I deployed the first time. So I graduated from Pensacola in March, went to Lemoore, but I was actually I actually went to C school first. So another training event. So I got my orders to my command, but I had to go to C school first. So I went there in March. I think I graduated C school in June. That was my first opportunity to go home real quick. So I went home for I think a week, and then when I came back, I actually reported to my squadron, and so that was late June. 3 weeks later, we left for first deployment. So I really had no time to leave. I just had enough time to pretty much do all of my paperwork to get in, and just kind of move into the barracks, but then pack up all my stuff to get ready for deployment.
Oh.
So we left from deployment in July, and that deployment, I'm pretty sure we operated in both OEF and OIF, so Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we actually would fly down to San Diego. So the John C. Stennis was stationed in Washington. They would come down to San Diego. We would fly to San Diego and join them. Well, I guess all of our enlisted, everyone but the pilots would pretty much come in, and then the carrier would pull out, and when the carrier got far enough away from the beach, our aircraft would come land on the carrier, because they can't land on it while it's docked in San Diego. But so yeah, we do all that fun stuff, and then I'm immediately actually put TAD, so temporary assigned duty, to the wardroom, which is the officers' mess, where the officers eat. So thus far I've been in the Navy for a year, went through 6 to 9 months of total training between A and C school, and now my first job is to wash dishes. So, and fun fact, one of my jobs right before I left the Navy was washing dishes for 5 years. That was always my part-time job, was washing dishes after I was working all my rest of my jobs. So I left New York to get away from washing dishes, and then my first job in the Navy is washing dishes. So I was very disappointed by this. So I was TAD for 2 months. So pretty much the whole time we're going from California over to the Persian Gulf, I'm TAD. So that was entertaining itself. Yet again, found out that I was almost immediately put into a position of leadership within the people that were also assigned TAD with me, and learned a little bit more about my leadership style there too, and learned that I don't necessarily like to be put in a position of leadership, but for some reason just like it was kept happening to me. And I was starting to see some stereotypes that went along with that, or I guess biases, because it seemed like other people that were wanting to be in more of a leadership position were not getting it, and it tended to be because, at least in my opinion, I have no idea, but in my opinion, it tended to be because they're either a minority or a female. It seemed like I'd be like the one white male in the group, and I'd be assigned as a leader. And so I started to question things a little bit. Started to try to pay more attention to stuff, but did that assigned duty, did not like it necessarily that much, and finally got back to my squadron. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to finally do my job. I'm an AT, I'm going to be an AT. I get sent to what they call the line shack, which is not the avionics shop. So line shack is the group of newer people into the Navy that clean the jets, clean the flight deck, kind of do a lot of the bitch work for the squadron, but also on top of that, we try to get trained to become a plane captain, which is actually a cool job in itself. So that actually, like in the Air Force, that's actual a job that someone goes in the Air Force to do. They're a crew chief, they call it there. But as a plane captain, you are kind of the safety of the jet when it's on the ground and the engines are on. So let's say the plane is getting ready to actually take off for a mission. The plane captain will actually go prep the plane, make sure everything is good, pull all the safety pins. So there's like landing gear safety pins, and then there's safety pins inside the cockpit to avoid the seats being ejected on the ground. Because that's how people die.
Yeah.
So that was it's a cool job because you had a lot of responsibility. So you have to do that to prep the jet. The air crew would come, so the pilot, and then for our jets we had backseaters, so they were called a weapons officer, or the WISO, we would call them. And so we would kind of tell them about the jet, if there's any issues with the jet, where they're kind of like the jet's located. So if the jet's located like too close to the side of the carrier, there's a tail hook. So during one of the startup checks, you have to actually drop the tail hook. But if it's over the side of the carrier, we don't have them drop the tail hook. So we kind of inform them of that. We let them know that we dived inside the air intakes and checked all the fan blades and the engine, and that checked out good. And after that, they do kind of their walk around, they get up in the jet. And then from that point on, the plane captain's actually in charge of the aircraft. The air crew have to ask the plane captain for permission to really do anything, and the plane captain has to give them the yes or no. And then if anyone else around wants to do anything in the jet, they have to go through the plane captain. So it was a huge responsibility. So it was kind of cool that they entrust the youngest people within the command to be trained as this responsibility.
Yeah. Would you say that was one of your most memorable memories from your first deployment? So
my first deployment, I was being trained to do that, but I didn't actually not get the qualification during my first deployment. So I actually got the qualification right after we got back. So I was a trainee, what they would call us, for that. So being a trainee, yet again, you get stuck with all the shit tasks. So I worked nights my entire time, pretty much the entire time in the Navy. I was night shift. So at night shift, air operations kind of die down. There's not really any jets in the air anymore. So that's when we do all the maintenance and cleaning of the aircraft. So when we're out to sea, we have 12 aircraft within our squadron, and every aircraft needs to be washed every 7 days. So if you do the math, so you need to have washed 2 aircraft a night, pretty much.
Yeah.
which washing an aircraft is not quite like washing a car. It's a lot freaking bigger. There's a lot more nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
And also, we're washing it at night on a carrier. The carrier, you cannot use white lights.
Yeah.
So we have to use these blue flashlights to try to look at the aircraft and wash it. And also, there's not that many water spouts that use fresh water.
Yeah.
With that we can hook up to and actually wash the jet with. So it was a very challenging operation. And the plane captains, because they were plane captains, did not feel like that was too beneath them to wash the aircraft. So it was always the trainee's job to wash the aircraft, although plane captains were supposed to help us, but they didn't. They decided to sit down in the shop and watch TV at night instead. I was a little butthurt about that. But,
understandable.
Yeah, so that was a lot of my job, was doing that. And yet again, even being a trainee in the line check, I got put into a position of leadership. I was considered head trainee. Yet again, wasn't quite sure why. So I had to make sure, so I had to coordinate, if the wash job, if we need the jet to be moved to be able to wash it, I need to coordinate that with the deck chief, and I need to coordinate any other tasks, after flight operations would end, we would need to go out and chain the jets down. So initially jets only would have 6 chains on them during flight operations, but after flight operations we would need to put, I think it was 16 to 21 chains depending where they're located. So that involved all those trainees throwing chains on our shoulders and walking the flight deck, making sure all of our jets get chained down. Which is not always the easiest tasks, because other squadrons steal chains from other squadrons. So sometimes you would run out of chains, and then have to go steal them off someone else's jet to chain your jet down. It was just a whole cluster. So it was, so we'd come on to shift at 6 o'clock at night. Flight operations would usually end by 9. From 9 to 11 would be just doing all those tasks, getting the jets chained down, checking the oil in the jets, make sure the engines were oiled, prepping, make sure all the safety pins were all in the jets, just all these random tasks. And then about probably 10 to 11 o'clock we would actually start maybe trying to wash the jet. So the plane captains at the time would not let us go eat lunch, or mid-rats, for night shift, and eating in the middle of the night was called mid-rats, until we would get a wash job done a lot of times, which sometimes we would have to wait for the boat crew to come up and move the jet if we needed it moved or something. So it was a whole clusterfuck, and they tried to mind fuck us into thinking that they were our ultimate rulers, pretty much. It was like have you ever heard about the Stanford prison experiment?
Yes, I have.
I watched after reading about that. I was like, that's how the plane captains acted. They were the prison guards and we were the prisoners. They thought they were in the superior mindset, and yeah. So a lot of times I got into heated arguments with plane captains, pretty much just tell them to eat shit, and we're gonna break apart and let some people go eat while we're waiting or while we're whatever. Because I'm a hungry person. If I get hungry, I get very angry. So I'm not about to I just didn't understand the mindset there and why they needed use that type of manipulation and just mind control to try over us out.
So by the second deployment, you were a flight captain?
Yeah, plane captain. Yes.
Plane captain.
So
my bad.
yeah, so right after my first deployment, so we got back. I think it was February-ish. Soon after that, I think it was March or April, I got my plane captain qualification. Was kind of forced into it because I was actually trying to avoid it. I was just trying to just ride out until I got an opportunity to actually go to my shop. But pretty much they kind of forced me to get my qualification. So I got my qualification. And then we were supposed to have a good period back on the beach. We were supposed to kind of just do little debts here and there, but then another carrier ended up having issues with its nuclear power plant, so then our carrier got called up to go out again. So it was actually, we found out, and I think it was mid-July, we're on a 1-month boat debt out in the Pacific, and that night we actually they served us steak and lobster for dinner. And everyone already knows, once they do that, that means they're about to tell us some bad news.
Yeah.
So we actually got a call. They did a long speech about, we need to go fight for our country. we're going to be deploying in a month. So we get back from that boat deck, and literally a month later, we're going back to San Diego in September, beginning of September, I think it was, to go on our second deployment. So only had like about 5 months back, so it kind of sucked. So went out for the second deployment. Yep, this time I was a plane captain, and I decided as a plane captain I was going to be a different one than the ones I had. So for like the trainees I had under me, I would always make sure that me and the other plane captains were up on deck helping them out if they're on a wash job, helping them out. Not saying we're going to do the work for them, but being there by their side, helping them out. So second deployment went a lot better in ways. At least I think the work-wise went better than my first one. I actually enjoyed that a lot. I found a lot of pride in doing that job as a plane captain, and it went smoother for that aspect. But then also, so in between deployments, I ended up dating a girl that was in my squadron, which is kind of fine to pound, but like we're both plane captains and we're both the same rank and everything at that time. So we were actually put in the same shift in the same shop when we got deployed. So as you can imagine, working 14, 15, 16, 18-hour days sometimes. And then I was actually, yet again, the head plane captain. I was shift supervisor, they considered. And my girlfriend at the time, who was actually not my wife, so it worked out, was technically under me once that happened. So then it just got we got a lot of heated debates. So part with, probably 2-3 months in, we got it worked out to where she got switched to day shift and I stayed night shift, which put stress on our relationship then, because now we're not seeing each other, because it's night and day shift, so 7 days a week, so we just never had time off together, period.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah, it added some additional stress, but in the end it worked out better because we learned the art of writing notes and letters and stuff. So we just had a notebook that we just passed back and forth between shifts, and to me it actually strengthened our relationship and then took that stress away of trying to tiptoe around the line of, you know, coworkers or even like superior subordinate idea, and then also boyfriend girlfriend, trying to keep that relationship alive. So it worked out.
All right. Well, while you were deployed, did you ever engage in combat?
So being on a carrier, you don't necessarily engage in combat. So our aircraft do. So I think between our 2 deployments, my squadron itself, I think only dropped 2 or 3 ordnance on enemy targets. So we weren't, at that point, Obama was actually trying to pull out of Iraq. So there wasn't actually a lot of, I guess, offensive combat operations going on. It was a lot of defensive, just us protecting our troops kind of thing, not us technically flying missions. At least to my knowledge. Of course, you know, again, we weren't really privy to the missions we were going on. We just know we're flying these many jets this day. They just made a big deal anytime one of our jets came back and after it dropped ordnance. So I know we dropped maybe 3. So in that aspect, it really, I did not have any first-hand experience in combat. The biggest thing I would see is sometimes they would actually, after reviewing the footage off of the dropping bombs, maybe they'll come and show us them dropping bombs. Which, thinking back on it, actually is really effed up how we watched them drop a bomb on a guy riding a dirt bike. We're being told it's an enemy. Who knows? But yeah, then all of us like cheer and laugh after the guy gets blown up.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of messed up when you think about it. But luckily, I didn't have to actually see any of that stuff firsthand. So
that is good. Is that a part of what prompted you to leave the military in 2015?
No, it was the girlfriend. So the girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she got out in 2014, so she had a 4-year contract. We actually came in right around the same time. I came in July, she came in August. We never really, funny thing is we were technically in boot camp at the same time together, we were technically in A school at the same time together. We just never met then. We met when we got to command. So, actually, so to backtrack a little bit, after we got off the second deployment, I proposed to her. No, yeah, so after we got off the second deployment, we got off and trying to remember timelines. 2013, we got back from the second one in April, May. So yeah, we continued dating, and then the following February, I proposed to her, and then she got out that August. So it was February 2014, proposed. She got out in August 2014, and actually just before she got out, we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So that way there's no instance of her not having a place to live kind of thing. So we debated her coming back. So she's actually from Georgia, just right down the road, Augusta. So we debated on her actually getting out of the Navy, coming back here and doing school, because she wanted to go back to school. And we kind of discovered between the credit hours she had to get into the grad school program she wanted to get into and everything, best thing would be for her to kind of stay put and just complete those at the local community colleges. But in that aspect, we were also like, well, do you want to have the added stress of you having to try to find a job and pay for a place to live? Because being a single sailor at E4 pay, I didn't have enough money to actually like support two people on one paycheck kind of idea, unless we got married, because then you get the additional pay for being married, and you get options to be able to live on base and the base housing and all that fun stuff. So, so we decided just to screw it, just go ahead and get married. So we got married. We got approval from my command. Since we were both in the same command, you technically can't get married. I talked to my chief, and then I ended up talking to our commanding officer, and he was just pretty much like, "That's fine. She's getting out anyways." So they supported us in that, so that was good. So we got married, and then when she got out, we actually initially got a place off base and stuff. And then when it came to my time around to pick orders, my career counselor in the Navy gave me wrong information. I actually missed my window to actually select orders. So at that point, when you miss your window to try to look and select orders, you need the Navy again. And they were trying to stick me right across the street in Lemoore to go to a RAG squadron, which goes on debts every like 2 months, and you're pretty much almost gone as a regular squadron anyways, even though that was going to be my shore duty. Yeah. So the Navy, you have sea duty, shore duty. You're supposed to rotate between the two. So I got really frustrated because I got mad at the structure. They failed me. I didn't get a chance to select my orders. If I had a chance to select my orders to go somewhere else, I may have stayed in, but I was not about to do another 4 years in Lemoore, especially if my wife wanted to leave Lemoore. So I decided as a family, we decided really, just as a family, I was going to get out also. So when my time came, the following July, I decided just to get out.
All right.
Also did not help. So I was actually trying to get qualifications. So actually, just after she got out, I made E5.
Oh.
So I made rank, so that was great. But with that, I was trying to get more qualifications, one of them being a CDI, which is a collateral duty inspector, which is like quality assurance. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to get that qualification so that way if I did get out, I could use that to better my opportunities in the workforce. And so I did all the work for it. So it's hours and hours of reading and tests and training and everything. And when it came down to it, I got all the checks is blocked off except I just need an interview with the maintenance officer. That was it. Pretty much just the last thing, like, hey, okay, you're good, sign it off. My command came back and told me that I was no longer eligible to get the qualification because I was getting out. Mm. So one thing that also pissed me off is they said if I got they were pushing me to get the qualification because right before I would get out in July, my squadron was going on a debt from, I think, April to June. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be out to sea, and I didn't want to go. So they told me so I was like, I'm getting out. Why do you need me to go to train? So they told me, oh, if you CDI, you can stay back on the beach and help build up some of the jets that are staying back. I was like, cool. So that's another reason I'm pushing for it. So the fact that they also then denied me from getting it after I put in the work, they forced me to go on the boat debt, made me very disgruntled kind of thing. So at that point, I was seriously fed up with the Navy. I was like, no, I'm out.
Well,
so, yeah.
And now you're here.
Yeah. So.
What did you do once you were out?
So the first job I got after I separated actually brought us to Arizona. So actually we lived in Arizona for about a year. My wife lived there a shorter period of time. We'll get into that. But yeah, so I got a job with a company called ASML. They work in the semiconductor industry. So they build the lithography tools, which is one of the processes used, or tools used in the process for creating microchips. So very interesting company, very good company in my opinion. I wish I could have stayed with them longer, but what entailed the travel entailed my job just did not work out. But yeah, it was good money. We moved to Phoenix, Arizona. I did a couple months of just kind of computer training with that, and then from there I got sent to, where did I first go? I think I got sent to Taiwan. No, not Taiwan. Hillsboro, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I got sent up there for a couple weeks to do some additional training up there. With that, my wife stayed in Arizona for a little bit. And then after Oregon, I actually went to Boise, Idaho. And from there, we kind of decided for my wife, I was going to be gone so much, there's no point of her sitting in Arizona by herself. And she was just kind of doing the school thing still. So when we had the opportunity, I think, so I started that job in like September. In December, we decided to have her actually just fly and stay with her parents. That's over here in Augusta, because I was going to be traveling for the foreseen future. So yeah, because after Boise, I went to Taiwan, actually Taipei, Taiwan.
Yeah.
I was actually there for a couple months. Really cool experience, really cool culture. Then after there, I went to Albany, New York, and actually was there for 3 months. And during this whole time, actually, so when my wife's also back home, so she's also pregnant this time. Actually, funny thing, actually, we found out she was pregnant that day. So my day of separation from the Navy was July 19th.
Mm-hmm.
On that day, we were getting on a cruise to go on a cruise in the Bahamas. And on that same day, we found out she's pregnant.
A lot happening.
Yeah, a lot happening that day. So yeah, during this whole time, she's pregnant. So our idea now is most likely I'm not going to stay with this job unless they can switch me to a different position that does not travel. But the whole idea here is saving money. So with this job, I made very good money, especially with all the travel. So by the time I'm done in Albany, it's March. She's due, it's the beginning of March. She's due at the end of March. So the company actually is, yet again, awesome company. Pretty much let me go home and work remotely for those weeks leading up to her pregnancy, so that way I could be there for the birth. But the whole plan was on April 11th, I was supposed to leave for Amsterdam. Yet again, would have been a cool thing to go to Amsterdam. Didn't end up going to Amsterdam. So my daughter was born on March 24th. This is 2016 now. We actually closed on a house on April 8th. And one reason I was also keeping my job was because if I quit my job, then I have to notify the bank and we probably wouldn't get the house that we're trying to get. Yeah. We bought that. We actually finally ended up closing the house on April 8th. And then I quit my job 3 days before I was supposed to leave for Amsterdam. So kind of sucked. I felt really bad for my employer. They understood. I was like, I can't leave now. My daughter's just born. I can't go to, because I was supposed to go to Amsterdam for 2 months, then go to Israel for another 2 months, and then from there, who knows. The job was, again, the job description said 75% travel, and they were very serious about that 75% travel. Yeah. So it didn't end up working out, but.
How would you describe the transition from military to civilian life? Because it sounds like it was kind of similar, but less structured.
Yeah, it was just more independent. I think that's a big thing. It's just going from the military where you're told where to be, when to be there, what to do, all this stuff, and then I go to a job to where I work remotely a lot of the time, or I go from place to place, and really there's someone I guess I can go to, but there's no one telling over me. So with that job, I was actually upgrading those lithography tools that they use. So I'd go to each location. Some of the locations I went to was just for training. Some of them was actually for a project. I'd go and pretty much upgrade the tool, because those tools cost like $120 million. So when a company wants to, get a better performing tool, instead of going to buy another $120 million tool, they can just buy a $10 million upgrade to upgrade the tool to be better performing. So it's so I'll just go do that. So super cool job. Very different from working on the flight deck of a carrier. That pace, the tempo, the environment you're in, and then going to work inside of these fabs. So all these tools are in clean rooms. So you're wearing a white suit, very clean. You have to do hand washing procedures and wear a beard net and hair net. So you go to that type of environment. And it's just very different. But it was great work. I mean, I I wish I could have stayed with that company because they took very good care of the employees. The pay was phenomenal. Like, so in the 8 months I worked there, I was able to put more than $20,000 in the bank to get ready to buy the house and to have the baby and furnish the house and get all the baby stuff and all that fun stuff. So I mean, it worked out greatly in our favor.
It
So,
sounds like
yeah.
it. All right. I know I didn't ask this. I meant to ask it while you were talking about your deployment.
Yeah.
But how was your family's initial reaction to you being deployed?
Honestly, I'm not too sure how my parents took it. Like, I think it was harder for my mom than anything, of course. My mom's. I think my mom was very proud of me going in the military. So she's the one that very much supported that, because I mean I have cousins that went in and stuff, and I think she was very proud of that aspect, and I think she just loved to have the bragging rights. But I think it was harder for her, because also I mean I think also it's me being away. It was a very change of pace. I mean, no longer get to go see my mom whenever I want. She wanted able to see me whenever she wanted. So I think it was a little bit harder for her just to even just have the no longer like constant communication, because on the ship you can't make phone calls until you hit port, and then even at that you're limited because it's outrageous amount of money. I would think that a better program for military members instead of having to buy minutes and stuff, they just pay for that for them. I don't know. But other than that, it was just limited to email, and even email at times was very difficult because if we're at all in sensitive areas, we weren't. I think they just shut down internet access. Period. So it was a little difficult. The cool thing is actually so my first deployment, when we come back, we hit Hawaii, and what they do is actually called Tiger Cruise. So you actually can fly a family member out, and they can meet you in Hawaii, and then actually you can ride on the carrier back from Hawaii to San Diego. So for my first deployment, I actually brought my mom out. So my mom met me in Hawaii. Really cool, because then was my mom first? Yeah, my mom. Now I'm questioning. Hold on. And my dad. Sorry, first one, my dad came with me. So that was the first opportunity. I wasn't dating my wife at the time, but I got to meet my wife. So he got to ride from Hawaii to San Diego, and actually got to see a little bit what I do. And then same thing for the second deployment with my mom. She actually got to come to Hawaii and meet me there. At that time, actually meet my girlfriend, I guess, and then got to kind of see what I do. So it was really good to show them the environment where I was living for 8 months at a time, the work environment I had. I wish they could have tasted how horrible the food was, but they of course got the better food for that last week of deployment. They actually served some decent food. But yeah, that was really cool. I think overall it was probably hard for them, but I think they appreciated it.
So how would you contrast that to how they were when you got out?
I think they were very concerned, and I think they were very much expecting me to come home when I got out. So I think that was the biggest shocker when I come home. Because actually, so the job I had right before I left New York, I was working for BorgWarner, which is a car parts manufacturer, and by law they're actually required to hold your job if you do military service for 5 years. So I think my dad, because that's actually where my dad worked there for years. He didn't work there at the time. My stepmom actually still worked there. I had aunts and uncles that worked there. It was a place that a lot of people went to work. So I think at the time my dad was really expecting me to come back home and get my position back, because actually you still gain your seniority time, and being up in New York with unions and stuff, seniority time is very important. And then also the little pay raises they were giving everyone else through the years, I was still getting too. So I could have came back from $17 an hour to like $21 an hour. Not huge, but I think he was very much so expecting me to do that. So when I got out and they found out that I was not coming home, I was actually, when I first got out, was going to Arizona. I think they were a little disappointed that I wasn't coming closer. So
Understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to school.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned in the prelim that you went to 6 different colleges.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your opinions and comparisons between them? You don't have to talk about all of them, but I would like to
remember
get
the
to
names
know.
of all of them. So two of the colleges were before I went in the Navy. So my first college I went to was CCC, which was Cayuga Community College, which was in Auburn, New York. So I went there as with the idea of getting my associates in mechanical engineering, which is a big focus in design and draft. So a lot of working with CAD and stuff. So I enjoyed that, but I wasn't sure. Like, I think with any student, you're never sure what you want to do. You're thinking, at 18, how can you make a decision like, okay, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life? So after that year, actually that year of school, I wasn't doing too bad. My GPA was probably sitting around a 2.5. I mean, yet again, not excellent student, but from coming as a D student in high school, it wasn't half bad. But then from there, I decided to, so Auburn was closer to where my dad lived, but the school wasn't that close to where I actually lived with my dad or anything. I lived in an apartment, and I decided actually to switch schools to a school that was closer to my mom. So then I went to TC3, which is Tompkins Cortland Community College, in Dryden, New York, which my mom lived in Freeville, like literally 10 minutes away from the school. So I went ahead and moved in with my mom and decided to go to school. But during that, I had switched my major to criminal justice, and then also in that, I got a job at a juvie detention center in Dryden, which required me to work 50 hours a week. So I was working nights though, so I was like, oh, I can just work nights, go to class in the day, and my job was a lot of times at night. I mean, I was kind of just sitting there, all the kids were sleeping, so my idea was like, oh, I can just do homework then. Of course, I didn't do homework then. And then also getting out for work at 8 in the morning. I was tired, so I'd just skip class and go home and sleep, and that's when my GPA took the big hit. I failed pretty much, I think I failed all my classes that year except for 2. One was swimming, because I worked out because pretty much first day of class I showed that I can swim, and then worked it out to where I was coming once a week, demonstrate strokes to the class for the teacher, and then leave and not to come back. And then I think there's a career exploration class, which is like a 1 credit hour class to just kind of take tests of what your like attributes are and where your career should be. So yeah, and I think everything else I failed or withdrawal fail. I think 1 class I got a D, but like, so for the whole year, just killed my GPA. So that's when I decided to call it quits. So then so the next college I would attend was, what was it? It's Rio Salado Community College, which was in Arizona.
Yeah.
So I think that's when I first went back to school. I'd start off with just a math class, just 1 math class.
And this was after you got out in 2015?
So this is after. So this is moving to Arizona in 2015. Took a class there. And from there, I transferred to the online college of Coastline Community College. They were very military-friendly kind of online college, so a lot of my military credits transferred. So at that point, I was like 6 classes away from associates in electronics, because a lot of my military training counted. So through my time working at ASML, since I was traveling all the time on the road, I was taking classes at the same time. So I was able to finish that degree in, what was it, December 2016. I think I finished that degree. So it still took a little bit, but then from there, I went to Midlands Tech with the idea of, I think, still going the engineering route. I was trying to do some prereqs to actually maybe go to USC Columbia for engineering. I think I just took 2 or 3 classes there, and then I went to Georgia Military College on the road in Augusta. While there, I kind of just decided to actually switch my major from engineering to business, because I was like, I'm sick of math. And then, yeah, got accepted to USC Aiken, and it was actually last minute thought, so I got accepted in December, went to the orientation like in January, and like signed up classes a couple of days before classes started, kind of thing. So that was January of 2018. I started here at USC Aiken. So, yeah.
Okay. How would you compare USC Aiken to your other colleges now that you've been here?
So I think it's hard to compare because those are all community colleges.
Sure.
So and a lot of them, I mean, were just online. But I would say from the aspect of actually being able to take classes on campus and the culture here, I like it a lot. I mean, I think the biggest thing that sold me on here to actually stay here, because my original plan was to come here for a semester, get all the prereqs, get my GPA up, and apply to Columbia. But I think what kind of kept me here is honestly the VMSS office, the Veteran Military Student Success Office here on campus, because they are so motivated to help veterans in any way. So every campus I went to after getting out of the military, trying to deal with my veteran benefits and getting to college, and like the complexity in that, like I never really understood what was going on. I never understood the process. Here they actually pretty much sit you down, tell you the process, tell you precisely what you need to do, give you handouts to show you, put up signs to remind you. It's just very straightforward and
cooperative.
Yeah, it makes it, you don't have to stress about that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I mean, also, it got to that point where I decided to apply to work in the office. So I have my work study at the office now, and I can even see the more background, the effort that goes in to try to demonstrate to the veterans and military family students. Because I mean, even children's, even if you're a child of someone that was in the military before you were born, you still get to use our office, and we will try to find every way possible that you can get benefits to go to college, whether it be scholarships or actually maybe benefits that you and your parent did not even know existed. So it's really cool, actually. I've had a few cases to where I have actually pretty much asked the right questions to where we found out someone is eligible for a monthly stipend to go to school that they did not expect. So now they don't have to worry about working part-time, or now they don't have to worry about taking out so much student loans. They can use their stipend to pay their tuition. So I mean, it's huge. So I think that part, at least for a military veteran, part of Aiken I don't know if anywhere really compares to it. There is.
You haven't found it yet?
Yeah, I haven't found it or heard of it yet. Because I mean, my wife goes to USC Columbia, and half time she doesn't know what's going on with the benefits. Right now we're going through issues where they didn't process her benefits, so she didn't get her pay for this month. Like, I mean, luckily we're not in a situation where we depend on it.
Yeah.
But being two working couple, like married people with a child, neither of us really work. I mean, I work for minimum wage for 12 hours a week at the office, but that's not like a livable wage.
Yeah.
We could easily be those people that would depend on it, and that's not paying daycare for the month if they don't give us the pay. So I mean, I think it's a very high stressor to where that it's so important that people's benefits are processed properly to where they get paid on time. But that's another reason why we push for the veteran students to get their requests and their schedules and their advisement into the office so early and on time, so that way we can process it, because then after us it goes to the VA, and who knows how long the VA wants to take. They typically have 30 to 45 days to process this paperwork. So if you come the first day of the semester to give us your paperwork, it may be 2 months before you get paid. So it's a big deal. So that's one thing where I think this college is different. I mean, then also being involved with the School of Business here, I think they want to have their students succeed, I can see.
And that's your degree focus right now is business?
Yes, mine is business administration with a concentration in accounting.
And what do you plan on doing with it once you graduate with it?
As of right now, planning on going to grad school. So actually, just yesterday at the accounting club meeting we had Clemson University come in. A lot of people didn't like the idea of having Clemson come in, but so they came and talked about their master's in accountancy program. So that was great. Got a lot of information about them. So their big push, which correlates with what I want to do, is they prepare you for your CPA. So my plan is to get my CPA certification, which is Certified Public Accountant, which requires 150 credit hours to become licensed. So easiest way to kind of get that additional 30 credit hours is go for master's program. So I'm just eyeballing those. So I've been looking at UC Columbia for theirs. They have a really great program up there. Clemson, we just found out yesterday, they have a really great program. So it just kind of depends on where I want to live.
All right. And depending on which one you pick, where do you see yourself in about 5-10 years?
It's so hard to say. So me and my wife we brainstorm this kind of stuff all the time. So we're both graduating around the same time. So she's graduating with her PharmD and her MBA next May. Mm-hmm. I'm graduating my undergrad next May. So I'll still have about a year of school after she's done with school. So it kind of plays out to where, depending on, I guess, the balance between where I decide to go to grad school or where I get accepted to go to grad school, where she finds a job, all that fun stuff. But in 5 years, I mean, with our goals and aspirations, like she wants to open her own pharmacy. I would love to open my own business. I mean, I've brainstormed different business ideas, whether just try to open a CPA firm after I get some years experience. I've thought about financial advising. I've thought about forensic accounting. And as far as to try to mix my profession and my hobby, open up a garage because I love working on cars. And then also my experience in electronics. I was thinking actually open a garage to actually build custom electric cars, like actually take old muscle cars or something and convert them to electric.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So I mean, it's just 5 years is so many different paths we can go on, but I think all of them look positive. So
They sound like they
hopefully.
look really positive.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else you'd like us to talk about today?
I think we hit all the nails on the head there.
Awesome. Well, that is all that I have for us today. Thank you so much for coming in today, Cruz.
It was a
I
pleasure.
really appreciate this, and all of the service that you gave is really amazing.
It was my pleasure. It was lots of fun.
Awesome. I'm gonna shake your hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that is a wrap.